If your goal is to close more of the real estate deals that you find, then this video is for you. Hannah and I are about to break down the most common deal structures, the pros and cons of each, and how you can utilize each structure to close more of the deals that you find, but also, more importantly, protect yourself in the process. Let's get into it.
Welcome to video 3, where we are going to review the most common types of deal structures. We've talked about the different types of deals. Now we want to talk about the way you can structure those deals. It's important for you to know these and understand them on a basic level so that you can make the right choice in how to build and scale your business.
Before we get into that, though, we want to just give you a quick disclaimer, okay? We are not attorneys, all right? We're going to be talking about legal stuff here and legal structures and things like that. And this is based on our understanding and our experience in operating in this business and dealing with these matters overall. You want to always consult with your own attorney and make sure that what you're doing follows the letter of the law, especially in your area and your state, right? If you're not in Pennsylvania where we are based, then you also want to make sure that the contract does whatever it needs to do to protect you and all parties involved. So
Okay, so let's get down to it. The first most common type of deal structure is the traditional or sole proprietor, meaning that you yourself are the owner of the property or the LLC that owns the property.
yeah, and this is what you're gonna find as being the easiest structure to execute, right? Pros of doing deals the traditional way. I mean, it goes without saying, almost you're the sole owner. You solely own and control all of the upside in that asset. You don't have to answer to anybody. You get to make all the decisions as to how the business gets executed, how it gets managed. All the upside is generally owned by you and controlled by you. So that makes for a very kind of easy, simple structure to understand. And it is preferred by a lot of folks who would rather not intermingle things with other people when it comes to assets. I mean, that there are people that have preference for only doing deals that way.
But I'd also say that's the con, right? Is because you're relying solely on yourself to do everything.
Yeah. The flip side to that is also
Uh-huh.
it's all on you, right?
So any downside is also solely your downside.
All on you,
Yeah.
right? It's all up to you at the end of the day. So you own all the upside. On the flip side, you own all the downside. So if you don't operate and manage that deal the way that it needs to be, or if there are things that would have helped you execute that deal successfully and you did not plug them in, or you didn't have the expertise or the resources to properly execute that deal, then you are also the one who's going to be faced with the downside, and the risk is all on you at the end of the day.
There's also partnerships. And when we're talking about partnership, we're talking about choosing one or more people that you are going into business with and building a business with. So looking like kind of long term, big picture.
Yeah, that's generally these parties or this person or parties. These are you are building a business together. It tends to be a long-term type of arrangement. And with that, it comes with some pros. You can basically leverage the resources, the experience, and basically things that you don't have that other people don't have that you could partner with, right? And they bring those things to the partnership. And the combination of the two can basically help you grow and scale your business faster, right? It can make you more profitable. One sort of easy way to kind of look at it, say an example of a partnership would be, say if you are very good at fixing things, say if you're a contractor and you have a friend who has money but has no contracting experience, right? Those are two things that kind of lend well together for two people that might want to form a partnership where they can go out and execute several deals together and build a business around, right? So partnerships can be very beneficial for leveraging resources and scaling your business. It's a very common way to get that done.
But a con would be like one, it's risky because a lot of people aren't, a lot of people enter into partnerships thinking that they work well with someone, not really truly determining what each person can bring to the table and making sure that their strengths and weaknesses are matched up.
Yeah, that is huge, right? As much as partnership can be very beneficial, it can be equally or even more painful if you don't choose the right partner, which is very tough to do, right? And for this reason, we don't recommend that you start out looking to form partnerships with people. I'm just going to put that flat out there. I mean, just at the base level of it, a partnership is like a marriage, right? Again, you're not doing one specific thing together, you're building a business together. So there are a lot of ways it can go wrong when expectations change, things change, or things that you originally assume would basically stay the same for both parties. They change over time, and then it gets to a situation where things start to turn sour, relationships get ruined. It's a very, very, very risky thing to do.
There's a lot of intricacies in the relationship. So it's hard to foresee all of those ahead of time and make sure that it's always going to work out with that one person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So starting out your business and looking to do it that way when you don't have a lot of experience in executing deals yourself, then you're basically multiplying the complications that are involved with that when you have two people that may not understand really the full scope of everything that's going to be involved. So we caution partnerships. They can be very, very beneficial, but starting out, you definitely don't want to focus on trying to do that. And if you do ever, you definitely want to make sure that it's very carefully thought out and that it takes time to basically pull that together. It's not something that you want to just jump into because it sounds good.
But needless to say, working with people is very beneficial and advantageous. So the way you can kind of mitigate that risk is to work with individuals on or deal by deal, case by case basis. And that is called joint venturing or JVing.
Yeah. And this is going to be what we would guide you to as the preferred way to collaborate with others in order to gain leverage and doing your deals and scaling your business because it's not as serious as a partnership. But this is, let's do this deal together and let's see how this goes. Right. And that does not mean that you have to be working toward a partnership. You can joint venture with the same people or the same parties, deal after deal after deal. But the thing is, the scope of what you have to manage together and all of the complexity that's involved with that is limited to one deal instead of you being married to that person and your business being wrapped up in it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to clarify it. It's like the property. So it's outlining the expectations and the responsibilities for one property instead of an entire business model.
Yeah. Yeah. So we hope that that kind of simply sort of breaks down sort of the pluses and minuses of both. There are more, but those are the main things that you need to be concerned with, right? You're going to hear this term a lot, and especially over the past few years, there have been a ton of content, ton of press around syndications. It's become a very kind of highlighted strategy amongst real estate people, real estate investors. You're going to hear it. You should understand how it works. So basically, a syndication is basically a structure whereby you are pulling the resources of a number of people to buy a property, right? What exactly does that mean? That could be 5 people, could be 10 people, could be 100 people. But the benefits of doing this is that basically you're able to pull money. Most of the time it is money, right? You're pulling the money from several people in order to grow or build the ammo that you have to take down a property, which means you can buy bigger properties, right? Bigger properties provide more leverage. So more leverage to basically do bigger deals that could be more profitable. Do you want to own 100% of a grape or, 5% of a watermelon, right? It's one of those things. You could, if you think about it that way, it basically, you're creating leverage by pulling the resources of a number of people together that can enable you to buy bigger deals and have potentially more upside because as the deal size goes up, generally the leverage goes up. So again, we're not going to get into the nitty gritty about syndications.
It's an advanced structure.
Yeah.
It's complicated. So
Yeah. We talk about the complications of joint ventures and partnerships, syndication. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that you're going to read and that you might come across with syndication, how easy it is. There's a lot of risk in doing syndications and nobody who has not built a substantial operation or have been operating in this business for an extended period of time should be basically pulling funds from 10, 20 people to put a deal together, regardless of how easy YouTube tells you it is. So just keep that in mind. And with that, we're going to basically talk about how we can get these deals done.
So we're going to go ahead and talk about what documents you need in place to structure these deals.
Yeah. So let's start with a joint venture, right? Because that's going to be our preferred way of collaborating with folks on deals at this point in our career and on their journeys, right? So what do you need to form a joint venture? A simple joint venture agreement that basically provides an outline of the deal, talks about what you're coming together to do, outlines the roles and responsibilities of each party, like outlines, what each party is bringing to that deal and also what each party gets from that deal. So really with a joint venture agreement, when done right, effectively forces you to do is mitigate the risk that's involved with forming a joint venture, right? You want to basically assume nothing, right? You don't want to do handshake joint ventures. You do not want to do napkin joint ventures that you write this stuff down and, it sounds cool and we'll be great at this because we're friends or we've worked together on something else before and it'll be great. We don't recommend that. That can be a recipe for disaster. Like when things change, people's recollections of things is not often the same as time goes on. So you want to make sure you're documenting everything, and a joint venture agreement effectively enables you to do that when done right. What would you need to do to form a partnership? A partnership, a little bit more complex. Again, can be a simple agreement, but because a partnership often involves several deals because you're building a business around this partnership, it's going to be more intricate than a joint venture and it shouldn't be as simple. So how do we recommend forming a partnership? The best way to start forming a partnership will be to start with what's called a memorandum of understanding,
or an MOU.
often referred to as an MOU for short. And basically what an MOU does is enables you to, in a non-binding format, right? Because an MOU is not generally something that you're going to take to court and say, they agreed to do this. It's in our MOU, right?
So it just starts the conversation, essentially.
It starts the conversation. It documents the assumptions. And basically what you're using that to do is lay out the initial scope of the partnership that is going to take place between the parties. So it really helps you do that in sort of a non-risky way. All right, let's just document all this stuff in an MOU so that we make sure that we're thinking along the same lines, right? You get that down, and the good thing about an MOU is it can be sort of a living document that you update as the scope of the relationship comes together. And then when you look at that MOU and you say, all right, I think it looks good. Your other parties, the other party or parties, they agree that it also matches their understanding of what they're willing to commit to, then you basically are going to execute some form of what's called a definitive agreement that generally supersedes an MOU, right? We said an MOU was non-binding, okay? Then the definitive agreement that would supersede the MOU is the actual contract that is going to govern how the partnership operates, right? And the simplest and easiest way to execute that is going to be an operating agreement. If this partnership is formed in an LLC, which it should be formed in some sort of legal entity, LLCs are governed by operating agreements. And in the operating agreement, it spells out all of these things, who's responsible for what, how the parties agree to manage certain things with related to operations, finances, taxes, pretty much everything that you would need to kind of have in place to make sure that that LLC that houses that business that you've collaborated on is operated in accordance with what you have agreed to, right?
So all the documentation that you're going to do for a partnership, it sounds like it's going to take a much longer time, or like scope of time. It's really something you're going to work through. It's not immediate. It's not for a quick deal. It's going to be something that is progressing and moving forward and that you're going back and forth with.
Yeah, it should not be quick. So if it is, if you throw up a partnership and you're ready to execute that partnership in a week, you should see that as a red flag that it's coming together that fast, because there is really a lot to think through. And I would say from personal experience, we can say that when partnerships come together very, very quickly, it's often that there were some things that were not thought through. And when you don't think about these things in advance, you're eventually going to think about them, but you might end up thinking about them at the time when it's worse to try to work them out, meaning problems or disagreements have already occurred. And then now you're forcing the process of working through, sorting out these issues, when if you really properly planned and, like Hannah said, scoped that out in advance and took that time, then you would have saved yourself some headaches.
So we are going to provide a couple of these documents here just as resources for you to review. They are what we have used personally. So it's not, again, like Tyrone said, you need to consult your own lawyer. We did not draft these up ourselves. They were drafted by our lawyers for our personal use. So please, keep that in mind, but just as something to kind of get your head to wrap around these ideas.
Yeah, the benefit of having these is like understanding how these agreements come together so that if you are approaching a deal or you're approaching a business and you are thinking about utilizing these structures, these agreements are going to key things that you need to be thinking about. It's going to show you, all right, this has to be worked out, that has to be worked out. Not to say that it's all inclusive. Again, there's that legal disclaimer, but you understand how these agreements are formalized. It helps you understand the importance of talking through and working certain things out.
So that brings us to a wrap. Stay tuned because we're going to go over some case studies and really, like we had mentioned before, talking over some real world examples of deals we have done and the structures we've implemented to get those deals done.
Yes, and this is going to be great because you get to see how this translates to real life, right? We can talk theory all day long. We can talk about what's possible. We can show you agreements for what's possible, but we're going to show you live deals. And these are deals that we've done and deals that we still own. So you can see that utilizing these deals examples that we've done within the past 2 years, how this is very real and very possible for you and your business. So
So join us on the next one.
stay tuned.